are live. Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Let me make sure everything's going smooth. Okay, perfect. All right, happy Wednesday, Halloween Eve. Today is day 11 of Richard Allen trial. This morning they had Dr. Walla on. She obviously was testifying about confessions from Richard Allen with details apparently only the killer would know. We'll break those down. We'll also go over a little bit of yesterday, not as much, but I always like to recap the day before. There's some things about the timeline that Richard Allen, when he came in, he said that he left his mother's residence at around 11:30 because I didn't want to have lunch, and then he went and grabbed a coat, and then he was there from noon to, and he says 1:30, 1:45, a nice little 45-minute window, but there's many inconsistencies where when we get a chance, we'll break those down because clearly there was people on the trails walking that day, including the 4 juveniles. They were actually there from basically noon to like 1:45-ish, 1:30. Yet he allegedly, according to the pro defensors, he ran into a different group of girls, but yet he claims he saw one girl with black hair. For those that don't know, Riley Voorhees, she actually has a different name now, because I'm assuming she's married. She actually has black hair. And he also mentioned that it looked like they were babysitting, and one of them were sisters. And that just happens to be, most of that is true when it comes to the 4 juveniles. He also made another mistake saying that he sat on the bench near the Mears parking lot, which we have Betsy Blair and the 4 juveniles now coming back, barely missing each other, and at the very least, one of them should have ran into Richard Allen if he's sitting on the bench. So, again, that's why I make visual timelines and not the written spreadsheet timelines, because it's so much to interpretation. That's just my opinion now. Speaking with that, if you do state something that you don't know is fact, if you could, I know it's can be redundant. If you can, please just say in my opinion if it's not something that is fact, because especially now with it being court and there's new details being released, somebody may say something in chat, and then somebody will come in and think that's something that was recently stated, and then they run with it. And so that's why we're kind of usually on regular lives, that we're not covering trials. We still, want to enforce that, but right now with the trial going on, we want to stick with the facts that are being presented as they come out. And so that's why I have my mods, and I'll kind of try to remind people as the live goes on. So let's get into it. We'll recap just a little bit yesterday, and we'll get into today because there's a lot of details that are coming out about the crime scene and why he apparently did what he did, why he was interrupted, and details, in my opinion, only the killer would know. And we'll talk about those as we go along. But I just do ask people, because there's still going to be a lot of people that may be on the fence. They want to see all the evidence first, and I completely respect that. I've been on a jury before, not of this magnitude, so I completely understand that. But I just, if you're going to have debates, please be respectful in debating, so we can have a welcoming.
Girls, Abby Williams and Liberty German had made last-minute.
Just have a welcoming chat as people come in, and I don't want people getting attacked, whether on either side. I understand emotions are high, and I agree. For those that have been following me, I do think he is the one. He fits. I've followed this case for many, many years. All the other people long before Richard Allen came along. Nobody fit, and so quickly, just so I can make sure everything's running smooth, I'm going to play just a 2-minute recap of their story, and then we'll just breeze through yesterday because they had the 2 interviews, and then they started getting into the confessions. I think, obviously, in my opinion, it seems like they're going to start with the more kind of open-ended, like one-line confessions that obviously the defense is going to try to poke holes in. But then now it seems like today, where they have Walla, where he's getting more into the details of the crime. I think that, and then of course then it'll be the recorded confessions where, that's going to be hard to, depending on what he says in those confessions to his mother and stuff. So let's get going. And yep.
Plans to go to the Monon High Bridge, which was supposed to be a teenage hangout with a historic trail and a really high old abandoned bridge. The 2 girls, who were best friends, just had a sleepover the night before and were excited when Libby's sister, Kelsey German, said she would drop them off as long as the 2 girls found a ride home, which they did. Although it was February, the temperature was nice for that day, and even though it was a Monday, they had school off that day. The 2 girls, Abby and Libby, would be dropped off just before 2 p.m., where they planned on only staying for a couple of hours. The 2 teens, Abby and Libby, would begin walking the 501 trail to the Monon High Bridge. As the 2 would approach the bridge, Libby, who had her iPhone, would take 2 pictures, one as they passed the first platform, and another which shows Abby looking down as she is crossing the scary, tall, gap-filled railroad tie. The girls didn't know it yet, but they were not alone. As a few hours would go by, the father of Libby, Derek German, would show up, but the 2 girls were not at the meetup spot. Thinking that the 2 teens just lost track of time, he would end up calling Libby's phone. The phone was ringing, but no one was answering. He would begin searching for the 2 teens, but when running into other people, no one had seen them. Eventually, the authorities would be called out, and this would lead to a search party looking for the 2 girls, but sadly there was no sign of them on that first night of the 13th. With the search being called off late that night for safety reasons, it would be resumed early that next day. They brought in helicopters, divers, and many other resources to scour the area, but just around noon that day, they would soon discover a grisly scene. Authorities would discover the 2 girls across the river, and both had sadly been murdered.
Investigators solemnly identified the 2 bodies found in Carroll County as 13-year-olds Libby German and Abby Williams.
We would soon get multiple press conferences, including one of the most memorable statements by Superintendent Doug Carter.
We know that this is about power to you. And you want to know what we know. And one day, you will.
And here we are, finally. Over 5.5 years later, since his arrest, and now 7.5 years later. Let me try to get that here. There we go. Okay, let's see. We got almost 500 people in here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you can, please hit that like button. What we'll do is we'll just kind of recap day 10 just a little bit. I just want to go over the highlights. I always kind of mention this in each live, but because there's no video camera, there's no there's no transcripts, there's no audio. And, journalists can only write so fast. They're going to miss details from each person's testimony. And so, at the end of the day, I listened to a bunch of different podcasts, YouTubers, people that were there. And then I take notes that may have been missing from, we usually go off to the live blogs from the local news, which been pretty, consistent. Obviously, they're just like anybody else. They can only interpret so much as it's, happening real time. Let me get back here. But there was just a few highlights from yesterday that I wanted to hit. And then we'll get into today. Let's see. Here we are. Okay, so day 10.
State because
So day 10, they started out with two interrogation videos, one from October 13th.
The state enters,
and one from October 26th. I'm not going to go much into this one, but there are just a few things I want to highlight. So I'm going to let this play for just a second. But there was something that I noticed, because obviously one thing that we really, as the public, have never really heard Richard Allen's voice. And one of the things I was curious is the people that were there that actually got to finally hear his voice, what did they think? Did they think it sounds like Bridge Guy? And I heard three people. And at least one of them I know is kind of, I would say in the middle. I would say they're pro Allen or pro defense. And then the other two are obviously pro Allen. But they said there was the two videos, the audio sounded different in each video. The original video from October 13th had a unique recording. I'm sure a lot of people have heard, interrogation videos. The audio quality is going to be different. And they said that was the issue with the 13th. Obviously, it was taking place in a different location. But they said the October 13th one, and they all said this, is that it sounded like Bridge Guy. Now, obviously, you can't. I think too, like, voice comparison. They like the FBI. They really need like up to like 25 words or something like that. They said to officially, do a match. But anyway, nonetheless, I thought that was interesting that they said that at least that October 13th one. They thought he sounded like Bridge Guy. But again, we're going off, guys down the hill. I mean, it's not a lot to go off of. But it would be interesting to hear, right?
into evidence two video interviews with Allen from October 13 and 26, 2022.
I know. I
Judge
agree.
Gull tells the jury that parts are redacted.
I do agree.
As they do not pertain to the investigation. The judge allows both videos, one with Mullen and Liggett and the other with Holman. At 9:14, the jury enters the courtroom and the video is on the screen.
Okay, so just to recap, the first interview, there was something that was kind of interesting. Or is it in the second one? Let me see here. There's a part where he's talking about the bridge. Actually, I think it might even be the second interview. If you guys remember, I had noticed that I thought it was interesting that he said something about there's no way his gun or bullet would have been found at the murder scene or on the bridge. And I even have the quote here. I highlighted it. I don't know if for those that were here in the show yesterday, I thought that was such a weird statement for him to make, that he would say, because usually you'd think you would say, oh, well, my bullet wouldn't be found at the crime scene. But he not only says that, but he says, somebody's statement caught my attention. Anyway, but not only does he say, my bullet wouldn't be found at the crime scene, but he mentions the bridge. And I thought that was so just odd to mention, the crime scene and the bridge. And obviously we'll learn in this interview coming up with Dr. Walla today that when he basically confesses, he mentions something about he believes his bullet was ejected on the bridge. So that comes full circle now with me. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that, caught that, but I thought that was odd, and I'm just kind of looking for it here. But obviously the first interview, they talk about, what he was doing. He, of course, claimed that he was out there after first he went to his mother's home and then left at 11:35 a.m., went and grabbed a coat, and then he went to the bridge. And at some point he was looking at stock trading. He was on the first platform. Kind of basically the same stuff we heard in the original. And then they asked what he was wearing. He claims that he was wearing blue jeans and a black off-brand Carhartt jacket. Apparently says he's got tons of Carhartt jackets. I thought it was interesting. He said black. Originally, I believe he said blue in the original statement. And then, of course, one of the things that we didn't hear that I noticed that's missing in this one, of course, they asked about his phone because obviously now it's 2022. It's been 5 years. And they asked about the phone. And he says that he's had this current phone for several years, but he's not sure about the phone from 2017. He's got to go back and ask his wife about it. And of course, we know when they searched his home, they found 23 phones, all the way back to Nokia days. And then it comes to find out that he recycled it. Go figure. Let's see. I'm just kind of skipping through this. Is this the one where I think it's the next one? Okay. Then we get into the second interview, which there's just a few things that weren't mentioned in the blog that we were watching yesterday. And so I want to get into that. And that is with the second interview, some things that happened in the October 26th. So now, obviously, they've done a search warrant for Richard Allen's home. Of course, they recovered the bullet and are now, obviously, they had told him that he could come in and get his car. Obviously, that was a play to get him in. And then they start, obviously interrogating him, reminding him he's still under his Miranda, he's still Mirandized. Let's see, where is it? So during the interview, the second one with Holman, at times Holman would leave just to kind of watch and see what Allen did. And even the jury got to see some of this, even though there's parts of the interview that's redacted. And there's some theories on why some of it may be redacted. Again, this is pure speculation on some, but one of the things I've heard from many people that kind of had an opinion on this is that in either the first or second one, or maybe even both, at some point they probably asked him to take a polygraph, and he said no. Again, we don't know that. But that was theorized on why that may have been redacted. Let's see. Okay, this is the statement right here. And this is huge because this will reflect about a statement he makes today. So Holman, obviously, detective, he is, asking him questions. And Allen says, "There's no way a round from my gun was anywhere near those girls or the bridge." And just like I stated earlier, I thought that was just such an odd statement, Again, you'd think you'd just say, of course, my round wasn't found at the crime scene, but he mentions near those girls or the bridge. Now, keep that in mind, as that is going to be, that'll make more sense of why he made that statement. And in my opinion, that is a damning statement right there. Because that is something only the killer would know. Of course, it gets heated. I'm trying to think anything else that they noticed. Oh, yeah. So, Alan's wife was there. And at some point before the interview's over and they arrest Richard Allen, Alan's wife comes in and they're talking. Now, apparently because obviously Kathy Allen, it's kind of hard to hear from what people had said that were there listening to the video. And she says some very interesting things. So this is it right here. So Holman leaves the room, and Alan's wife, Kathy, comes in. And here it's reported, he says, "I told you I was on the trail. I didn't tell you I was at the murder scene," Alan responds. "I'm not going to tell you something I didn't feel." Oh, wait, no, I'm skipping forward. Hold on. Alan says his wife. Wait a minute. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry. This is where Kathy enters the room. I'm sorry. I thought it said that a little bit earlier. Okay, so it says Kathy enters the room. It's going to be all right. And now what they had noticed in the video is that Alan's wife, when they went to embrace, it was more kind of one-sided, where it was Richard Allen embracing her and kind of hugging her, putting his head on her shoulder. And one of the things that is stated by Kathy, apparently, and it's hard to hear, is apparently she says, "You never told me you were on the bridge." So I thought that was interesting that we missed out. That wasn't reported in this journal. And then, of course, he talks to his wife and tells her everything's going to be all right, but keeps reassuring her that, I didn't do this. They're going to come after you. I don't know how to answer that. And he loves her, and they're not going to get away with this. But I just wanted to add that what was missed in this is apparently Kathy did say, from what they heard, is that she apparently said, "I didn't know you were on the bridge." So I'm assuming maybe he told her, obviously he was there that day, because I think she was the one that told him to call in or come forward in the beginning, with his original tip. But something tells me he may have left out. Maybe he told her that he went to the trails, but didn't actually go to the bridge. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, so I put it here because this is, again, I was listening to, I think this came from the murder sheet. And they said it was really hard to hear what Kathy was saying because, she had a soft voice, but they felt like it was kind of a one-sided thing where instead of husband and wife, embracing, hugging, I felt more one-sided where she was kind of more reserved and Alan was kind of like trying to convince her that he had nothing to do with this. And he kept saying things over and over and over to his wife. So I just wanted to throw that in. Good to see you, Captain. Hope you're doing well. Honor to have you in here, buddy. Since Alan watched Dateline murder shows, why would they come after his wife? Yeah, I think that's stated by a statement he makes to his wife, apparently in this. Yeah, because it's supposed to be just them two right now. So, guy they ask her husband how the bullet ended up from his gun at the crime scene, adding they were going to come after. Oh, actually, no. That's Kathy telling that to Alan. I'm sorry. Um, Um, then, of course, shortly later, the video, I guess, cuts, and that's when they're into a screaming match. That happens, I guess, at the end of the interrogation, where Holman and Alan are kind of screaming bad language to each other, and then eventually he just says, Richard Allen says, "Okay, well, just arrest me." And Holman says, "Happy to do so." And then, of course, that's not shown because that would be prejudice to show Alan being arrested. Then we had the warden come on. Obviously, he had a lot to say. He talked about just how Richard Allen's living arrangements were set up, which we're not going to, we repeated this yesterday, but he basically goes over that. He's in a 12 by 8 foot cell. He gets to have a tablet. He's got a toilet. Hot meals a day. He gets to download apps, make calls, listen to music. Abby and Libby don't get to experience that anymore. Inmates on self-harm watch are seen by medical daily, so he's getting medical. And so we'll continue on that. But of course, one of the things that they brought him on for is because Richard Allen requested an interview, and we've seen that statement written out, by a reporter, which is basically him saying, "I am ready to confess to killing Abby and Libby." Now, I think the warden said he didn't actually do that interview because that is not his job, and I think he tried to get like a detective out there, because he knew it wouldn't be like an official thing that they could use. Let me take a sip here. Again, I'm just kind of recapping yesterday, just kind of flying through this, and we'll get into today. And also told him that he threw out. Okay, so Alan also admitted to the warden that he obviously committed the crime several times. He admitted to him several times about committing the murder and apologizing. He also told him that he threw out the box cutter used to kill the girls in a CVS dumpster. Obviously, that is something we've talked about, how I believe that could be very huge. I don't think that's anything anybody would have ever guessed, as, we always kind of thought that they were Libby was nearly decapitated, but that was not the case. And then with the parallel cuts, I've explained it in lives before, with the box cutter that has the thumb guard, which is mentioned by the pathologist, he believes that could have been the weapon used. Continuing on, then we'll hear from, as far as yesterday, more people that worked at the correctional facility that were watching Alan, and he confessed to. Obviously, there's a lot of just kind of one-liners, more or less is what I call them. Whereas today, it's going to be an actual kind of more one-on-one conversation about the details, which are more disturbing. Even though he does share some disturbing stuff. I'm going to skip through this. The defense obviously talks about the companions. They mention, how his cell is set up and everything, and just kind of jumping through this. They also asked if he had documented any Allen's verbal confessions he made to him. He did not. And running through here. And then the defense also asked why they had set up a camera in when they were doing visits with the attorney with their client, and he says that's because they didn't have any cameras in that particular room, and that's kind of for their protection as well. Let's see. Then we had Ethan, one of the workers for the Westfield prison. One of the statements he told him, Allen told to Ethan, I think coming to prison has cured my depression and anxiety. Do you want my Bible? Of course, they asked if he had any training on when someone is faking a mental health condition. Ethan continued describing Allen's day. On April 5th, Allen was crying and screaming. He later told the jury that Allen was upset anytime he had to return to his cell. Then we have Officer Michael Clemens, who worked at the Westfield Correctional Facility when Allen was there. On April 6th, some of the following quotes, and I apologize for the language. At 7:30 a.m., God, I am so glad nobody gave up on me after I killed Abby and Libby. Half hour later, I, Richard Matthew Allen, killed Abby and Libby all by myself. Nobody helped me. 2 minutes later, I am not crazy. I am only acting like I'm crazy. Clemens mentions a few other quotes from Allen, including, I am ready to confess, I don't want to die, an unspecified moment where Allen was screaming nonsense. Clemens told the jury that he was stationed to monitor Allen for several months, for several hours each shift. I'm assuming these are the people there to kind of watch him because he was on self-harm watch. He said that Allen's behavior changed in random ways, and we'll hear that through many other people. They would say it would just change on a dime, where they believe that if you were, crazy. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but this is their words. They believe, from what they've seen, if someone's crazy, usually it's continuous. It's not just, all of a sudden, he's acting crazy 1 minute and then he's fine. And that's something that many of them noted. Schwag, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Appreciate it. One of the things I want to do is, but there's just so much to go over, but I am going to break down Richard Allen's timeline that he gave on October 13th, because there's some huge holes. He mentions that he saw an SUV and a sedan. Coincidentally enough, it's believed that Betsy Blair drove an SUV. And then, of course, he also mentioned that he sat on the bench number 6, which I believe is near the mirrors. It's where the trails kind of split off. It's basically at the trailhead, where also mirrors comes in. And we'll talk about why that's just in my opinion, there's no way he could be sitting on this bench and not see anybody except for these three groups or this group of 3 girls, because again, there's Betsy Blair's walking around. You got the 4 juveniles walking around. None of them mentioned seeing a guy sitting on a bench. Let's see. Then the defense questions Clemens. Obviously, they ask him about, mental health and mental health codes. Um, one of the things I guess people would call Alan was a baby killer. Obviously, when you um, come into something like that, you're going to have that stigma. I don't think that's a surprise. Um, the jury asked Clemens if he documented when Alan shouted at other inmates. He replied, "It's possible." Oh, one other thing. Before 4 a.m., Smith documented Alan repeatedly saying his wife's name, Kathy, and running into a door. Apparently, he would do that from time to time. He'd either run in place or he would run into a wall or the door. I believe this is when his behavior would act up. And this is one of the more disturbing things. As a matter of fact, I'll just play the video on this one, and they talk about this.
In some ways, it was overwhelming. I mean, it was just jam-packed today, starting with videos.
Interesting to note today, so we're just going to play a last little bit. This is them. They're going to talk about the statements. I'd rather just have them run through the statements here at the end. And then we're getting into day 11. Okay, all right, we'll do that, Jennifer. Nancy Grace is there today, for those that don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
And then just first, here's today's testimony. We started with those 2 interrogation videos of Richard Allen back in October of 2022, just right before he was arrested by investigators. We heard from John Gallipo. He's the former warden at the Westville Correctional Facility. He testified before the jury today. And then we heard from just a whole bunch of correctional officers, 7 Westville correctional officers. We heard from Ethan Drang, Michael Clemens, Michael Roberts, James Early, John Miller, Brandon Fisher, and Raymond Smith, all of them correctional officers who got to hear statements made by Richard Allen while he was at the Westville Correctional Facility. And we also heard from one additional correctional officer, that's Jason Bedwell, and he is a correctional officer at Wabash, where Richard...
So again, I think they're starting with the, like I said, the kind of the one-liner statements that, I'm sure the defense will kind of argue. And then obviously with today, with Dr. Walla, where there's a more one-on-one, full conversation and details, even more details only the killer would know. And we're gonna break those down. We're gonna get into those, but I just want to talk about, because there are some details in these, in my opinion, that obviously only the killer would know as well. So let me skip this. I just want to get to the statements. They kind of run through some of them here. Obviously, trigger warning, some of this words used, and some just...
And Jerry Holman says sure, so he hugs her, kind of comforts her.
Watching this interrogation video played for the entire courtroom. And
confession, though he heard Allen say, "I want to confess, I know a lot more," and he said, "Why are you doing this? Do you know God? Do you know why I'm here? I killed Abby and Libby." Those were the initial testimony that we heard today about the confessions. And it was interesting during that time to, again, watch the jury.
I'm sure they probably had somebody, on the team from Nancy Grace go and be the poor person to go sit out there, because I heard now that it's getting worse. According to Murder Sheet, like as soon as the trial's over, people are now just getting right back in line. Like, because remember, we played the video, I think we were playing a video, the recap from the day before, as we always do, and the lady was reporting at like 10 at night, and you can see people already camped out there. Oh, these terrible people. This is such a, I'm sorry, but a shit show as far as, you know, the way they got this set up. You know, why not just have like a lottery or first come, first serve kind of ticket? And then, you know, you got your ticket for the day at a certain time, and then, you know,
Taking very
so
close
it could be so simple they could set up, and they don't.
notes about what was being said, and to see at one point Richard Allen I saw sitting there, and he was just kind of shaking his head no.
We also heard about the conditions that he was living in. That was what came up on Crop.
That I'm going to be honest, Paul. The interrogation, they said, you know, the defense made a big fuss about it. They said, and that's referring to the Holman one, which is the second one, October 26th. They said 3/4 of that interview was just kind of really, because remember, the read technique is really just matching the person's demeanor and, you know, voice level. And for the most part, Alan is kind of calm. And so obviously if that person's calm, you're going to match their demeanor. And then it's only at the end where so I'm assuming something happened after him and his wife talked, and I'm sure probably, you know, they mentioned something about his wife, saying, you know, you're going to drag your wife into this, and I'm sure Alan got heated, and then things escalated. But according to the people that watched that, it's really just at the end. So in my opinion, the defense made it sound like, you know, straight from the beginning, this big hole man is standing over Rick, you know, and screaming at him and yelling at him and swearing at him, and that wasn't the case. It only happened back and forth at the end. So again, you know, context is everything.
Cross-examination.
And the defense was trying to point out that he was living in terrible conditions in a situation where he wasn't even hadn't been adjudicated yet.
He may be living in terrible conditions, but he had a tablet. That's more than Libby and Abby have right now. And he's alive.
Was not, you know, he had been charged, but here he is in a prison with other people who have gone through the trial process and been found guilty, and this was not his reality. And yet here he is in solitary confinement on suicide watch. Safekeeping, I think, was the word that safekeeping order that John Gallipo referred to. But for the most part was by himself in a 12 by 8 cell,
right.
Metal door, little window for the food. And this is when, you know, the defense was, you know, asking them, do you think this is normal? And did you know that Richard Allen had a diagnosis?
Okay, so I just wanted to get to the statements, and then we're going to get into today. I think it's right here.
Examination on pretty much all of these witnesses that that Brad Rosie of the defense counsel, he kept asking over and over again. He said to these correction officers, even said to the ward, he said, so tell me, how much training do you have in mental health behavior?
That's weird. Maybe that ended quicker than I thought. Oh, okay, it's going fast. We almost got 1,000 people in here. Okay. All right, we'll get into day 11. I need to, I've got some screenshots of what kind of the highlights, because there was at least 5 or 6 people they had on very shortly, just kind of one, you know, as I say, kind of one-liner statements from Richard Allen, you know, saying that I killed them. So here we are today, starting at 8:45. Richard Allen came in the courtroom wearing a lavender shirt, gray pants, glasses on top of his head, the usual. Jurors were brought in at 9:30. It looks like they had a 17-minute sidebar between the two attorneys. Oh, let me... Okay, let me know how chat speed is. Thank you to all my wonderful mods in here helping out. All right, So let's get into what was said. And remember how I told you about the bridge? How he said in that interview, there's what I forget the exact quote, but the bullet being found would never be found by the girls or on the bridge. Why would he say the bridge again? I know I keep saying that, but there's a reason. I thought that was an odd statement, and now we're gonna find out why. Okay, state's 37th witness. I can't believe it, man. It's flying by. So this is Dr. Monica Walla, lead psychologist at Westfield Correctional in 2022 and 2023. She was called up. She served as a contracted psychologist and the lead psychologist at the Westfield Correctional Facility in 2022 and 2023. One of her patients, Richard Allen. She told the jurors she assumed she would be Allen's psychologist based on the high-profile nature of the case. Wallace said she put her notes into an electronic record system. She said she met with Allen in an A-pod cubicle where he would be unshackled once inside. Wallace said most of the time she put her notes from her session with Allen into the computer on the same day as the sessions. Jurors received a copy of Wallace's notes and about her sessions with Allen. That's good. They get to see that. Walla began seeing Allen daily in November 2022. So he was arrested in October 26, 2013, 26. Yeah, October 26. So not long after he is brought in. Her notes showed Allen was on self-harm watch with close observation, monitored every 14 minutes. He was placed on self-watch when he first got into the facility and stayed for 1 month before he was removed in December. So basically from late October, November, December, and then it seems he did good for a few months, and then it seems starting after, so he did good at the beginning of 2023, and then on April 4th, remember, this is around the time that he had called and confessed to his mother and grandmother. April 4th, he gets placed on watch again. Jurors received a copy of Walla's notes about her sessions with Allen. Walla began seeing Allen daily in November 2022. Her notes showed Allen was on self-harm watch with close observation, monitored every 14 minutes. He was placed on watch when he first got to the facility and stayed there for 1 month before he was removed in December 2022. Oh, I already read this. According to Walla's notes, Allen was not on a consistent self-harm watch, which was reserved for inmates who posed an imminent harm. Of course, he was placed back in April after things had taken a turn. Walla said she remembered telling Allen not to discuss her case with other people. When asked by prosecuting attorney Stacey Diener if she found Allen to be an intelligent person, she said yes. Diener asked Walla if Allen understood the danger of discussing his case with others. Wallace said it depends on the time frame. Wallace said Allen discussed his case with her in a session on April 5th. Wallace testified that during that session, Allen said, I killed Abby and Libby. I'm sorry. Allen then became tearful, said he committed the murders alone, and said his intentions were sexual in nature. Allen said, Walla testified. Walla testified that he thought the girls were 18 or 19, but could be as young as 11. I don't. Yeah. I'm just gonna. Yeah, that just sounds terrible. I don't know who somebody who's innocent or trying to fake or who is crazy would say certain statements. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but to show remorse, being tearful, talking about this, it sounds like he's, reliving some stuff that he did, some terrible stuff. Yeah, trigger warning. Thank you. There is. Yeah, thank you, because I only proofread this, so I appreciate it. You may get ads. I apologize. They're only supposed to come maybe once an hour. So just, if you can, just click skip. But I can't do anything on my end on that. Wallace said Alan talked about being a selfish coward all his life and wishing he could go back and change his actions. Wallace said Alan admitted to having a sexual it says that was spelled wrong. Addiction, I'm assuming. And being an alcoholic. She said Alan told her he took God into his heart in March 2023. Remember, that's when the confessions come to his mother and wife. Said he'd hope he would, and said he hoped he could give his Bible to the family of Abby or Libby. Ugh. He wished he could go back and change his actions and apologize to the families. Five and a half years this poor family has waited. And there's much, much more. Brace yourself. Much more. And there's stuff that only the killer would know, in my opinion. Wallace said Alan hoped his family would forgive him and that he told her he was happier than he had ever been since in such a terrible place, and grateful for an outside view from the top of his cell window. So I'm assuming this is kind of talking about finding God and hopefully being forgiven and all that yada yada. Alan said he slept with his Bible. Walla testified and expressed concern over Walla's own faith. I'm sure, because where he's going. Walla wrote in her notes of Alan, at times he was calm and at times he showed almost a bizarre smile. According to her notes, Alan said he found God on March 21st, right around these confessions, and he showed signs of potential fenning. When asked about no running water, Alan said it didn't matter, as he was drinking water out of the toilet. When asked by the prosecutor if Alan's behavior was manipulative, Wallace said possibly. Wallace said Alan couldn't recall if it was his first confession, but did know he had made incriminating statements to companions on the self-harm watch. So remember, those statements by those guys, a lot of them, I think, were... I'll have to get the dates. I'm going to have to put a thing together. I just didn't get a chance because I was listening to everybody's testimony. And try to get the dates of everybody's confessions and the timeline of them. Because it seems like this one's kind of more earlier. Wallace said she did not know anything unusual about Alan's physical appearance, but noticed, and this is huge, but noted his intense eye contact, staring and gazing which he said at times was normal for him. Remember, we've heard that with people that have gone to, hearings even well before the trial, and especially the one in July that took place, and he was actually turning back and looking at people in the gallery, and even looking at the victim's family and giving him these intense staring and uncomfortable gazes. And according to the murder sheet, they said almost the first week of the trial, he did really good, where he was not doing any of that. Maybe occasionally he'd look back, maybe try to make eye contact with his family. They said now he's almost, according to them, in their opinion, has almost fully resorted back to this, turning back from time to time, looking at people at the gallery in the jury, in the gallery, and with this intense weird stare, and then as well with the jury, that there's certain people he looks at. So again, I don't think that's going to be good on his ability, if that's going to make the jury feel uncomfortable if he's doing that. As for Alan's mental status, Wallace said his emotions were up and down, and he would sometimes go off on a tangent and return. Remember, that is something that is going to be a common theme with everybody that has associated with him, is that it's almost like a bipolar. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but that almost sounds kind of like, it's about the only thing I think of, with off and on, just, but not crazy. Other times he wouldn't return. Walla said Alan explained his confession and murder information in a concise manner, in chronological manner. It appeared that at the time, Wallace said, his anxiety and depression was improved. Had improved. During Wallace's testimony Wednesday, jurors were watching Alan. Well, I bet they were. Who stared upwards or down at the table much of the time. At times he looked at Walla. It's probably making him feel uncomfortable. The prosecuting attorney then turned to Walla, to Walla's May 2nd, 2023 meeting. Walla said during that meeting, Alan said, "I killed Abby and Libby. I will kill everyone," something he mentioned, starting World War III, and asked, "Is it okay to take my life?" So obviously some very deep stuff. But he's going to start talking about some stuff that happened. So prepare yourself. These, again, in my opinion, these are details only the killer would know. And they align with details with, especially something why he was interrupted. Remember, we were hearing that something interrupted him. He wanted to take advantage of them. Obviously, they were fully derobed, but for some reason he was interrupted, and so he freaked out and killed them. He stated he did not want to die. Walla said of Alan. He also said during that meeting, "I killed myself and my family and my best friend, and I'm not going to take my life. I'm too much of a coward." And I would agree with all that. Wallace said that he told her that he ate his own fecal matter because he was sane and didn't have water. Let me repeat that. He did that because he was sane and didn't have water. When he was told that didn't make sense, Alan said, "I know." Walla said Alan had difficulty staying on topic in the meeting and said he wasn't clear on expectations for his behavior other than taking his medication. Does not present as psychotic, Walla said of Allen during that meeting. According to Walla, Allen said okay, so Allen said both. He would and would not take his life. His tablet was broken at the time, and the warden suggested getting him a TV. Boy, that sounds nice. When asked if Allen was cooperative in the session, Wallace said, for the most part, Wallace's diagnosis for May 3rd meeting was a brief psychotic disorder with disorganized speech and behavior, but no delusions or catatonic behavior. Angela says, appreciate your coverage. I'm seeing so many channels still sticking up for him. To me, Bridge Guy has always looked just like Alan. Rest in peace. Beautiful girls. Finally justice. Yeah, we still got a ways to go. But yeah, there's, everyone's entitled to their opinions, of course. In my opinion, I feel like there's, well before this trial happened, there was enough evidence that just the puzzle pieces fit. It's not hard to build a timeline, especially when you got a timeline like this, where I just cannot paraphrase this enough. It's a linear path timeline. I know timeline it's linear, but the crime itself is on a linear path. There's only so many variables that can happen in this. It isn't like, the guy abducted the girl at one house and then drove 20 miles over here, and then she was held there for a day and then taken somewhere else and then killed. And then we have all these variables that could happen in between, where there's none of this. It's a basic 1:30 to 4 o'clock crime that happened on a very linear path. It's pretty straightforward, in my opinion. When asked about her May 3rd meeting with Ellen, Wallace said he gave a narrative of the crime during that meeting. So get ready. Here we go. This is what Wallace testified was the narrative he gave. So here we go. And that's right. Yeah, it's when you really break it down, this crime is a very basic, even though no crime is basic, obviously, but the timeline itself, it's on the path that it happened on is linear. There's only so many variables that can happen. And yeah. Anyway, don't get me on a soapbox and rant, because there's a reason why I like to build these visual timelines, because there's only so many things that can happen, All right, let me take a sip, because we're going to talk about, this is some of the details. And so, trigger warning, of course. So, Alan saw his parents on the morning of the crime. So, that apparently is true. He did apparently go to Peru, which obviously, when you mention Peru, that always gets people talking, because, of course, the Kleins were based out of Peru. It's likely they may have known each other, maybe not personally, but friend of a friend, so there's still some theories out there that I could see possibly happening. He said he bought a 6-pack instead of lunch. So instead of eating, he bought alcohol. He drank 3 beers, bundled up, went to the trail, and saw the girls. He then followed them to the bridge. Did something, now remember that, I'll talk about it here in just a second. Did something to his gun and thought that did something to his gun and thought that was when the cartridge came out, and then told the girls down the hill. Remember, there's the guys and down the hill. And the reason why that's clipped is because he obviously racked his gun. And it's possible that he had a live round in that as well. And there could still be a bullet down in the creek as we speak, as we do this live right now. There could be another bullet of his down in that creek, which is crazy to think about. So we'll finish the rest of the statement. We'll come back on why I thought this was crazy, because he admitted to this earlier. He said he planned to essay them, but saw a van. Whose van did he see? We'll talk about that. And got scared and decided not to. Crossed the creek and cut necks before covering the bodies with branches. No Odinist symbols, no hanging Abby upside down with the yellow rope, draining her blood out. No taking the bodies and bringing them back at 4 o'clock in the morning while people are out there, searching in the pitch black and, hauling them back. And then, deciding, let's be really intelligent criminals and let's turn on Libby's phone and lay it under one of the bodies before we leave. Genius. Then he says, then staying off the trail, not to be seen, Alan said he returned to the car and then lived his life normally since. That just disgusts me because, he gets to live his life normally, or at least for a time, while these girls experienced one of the worst things ever imaginable. Watching your best friend die, knowing you're next. One of them's naked. You were both naked at one point. Knowing that was what was likely going to happen before you died. It's disgusting. And there's a special place in hell for someone like this guy. So remember, so I thought that was so interesting. For those that are here in my live yesterday, there's things that Alan does. He tells on himself. He just can't help it. He tells on himself. And right here, remember during my live yesterday, Alan adds, there's no way around from my gun was anywhere near those girls or the bridge. Why in the hell would he say bridge? Why would he say that? Now we know. It's because he racked that gun again. Or he racked the gun. There was probably a live round. So, So a bullet probably got jacked. As a matter of fact, people say they hear this metallic noise. And I don't know if they're referring to the racking itself. Or if maybe, I don't know if you'd hear the bullet dropping. Boy, I would love to see that video. Eventually we'll be able to see it one day. I can't wait to break that down. But again, here is his statement. This is his statement. His own words. Lining up. Again, why would you say something like that, Okay, continuing on. Let me move this over. Again, we got 1,000 people in here. God bless you all in here. I can't keep on my eye on the chat the whole time, but I do appreciate everyone trying to be respectful. I get it. It's a very emotional time. And as the trial gets further on, there's more stuff that gets revealed. And I think people, obviously, it upsets people. It upsets me. because I think the more and more evidence that comes down, again, most cases are built and convicted on circumstantial evidence. Most attorneys say they love circumstantial evidence. And this is what this is. It's little pieces that build up to the big picture. And again, this isn't a rocket science criminal or murder, because again, as I said before, it all happened on a linear path that only so many events can take place unless you're, the defense and believe that, miracles and, a bunch of people. Anyway, I'll get sidetracked. Mitzi, thank you so much for the gifted mob crew membership. God bless you. And thank you so much for the help. Criminal, love you, mob. Thank you, Chris. My pleasure. Metallica, such great, love Metallica. Or the bullet was in the brown box at his house. Oh. I think that bullet relates to when he was going to take his life. But it's possible. Certainly possible. I don't think that's a bad statement. But it's still possible there could be a round sitting at the bottom of that Deer Creek somewhere. Okay, continuing on. Wallace testified he told her he wanted his wife to know he loved her. Kept repeating it. He didn't want to miss Easter. And he had no psychotic symptoms. Easter. This is on May 3rd. Easter. That's weird. I wonder what the Easter is, because May 3rd, that's after Easter, right? April's Easter. Unless he's referring back to 2017, but you still got February, March. I'm not sure what the Easter is. That's weird. Okay, here we go. There's more, and we're going to talk about the timeline because... so if anybody's wondering, I guess before we jump forward here, this van that he got scared by. So I just had it up here. This van, so according to Weber, I believe this is Weber, he came home sometime between 2:13, I think it's like 2:30 and 4 p.m., 2:30 and 3:30, somewhere around there. So it must have been his van coming down that dirt road, the access road. I'm assuming that's who he's talking about. Oh, can it be in... Oh, that's right. It is in late April. That's right. I don't have kids. I haven't done... That's true. Easter does change. I always think April. Okay, you're right. May 3rd. So it would have been... Okay. Yeah, I always think April. I always think that's in April. But yeah, I guess you're right. Now that makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, that must have been the van on the access road. Yeah, I think most people at the end of the day want, justice for these girls, and maybe we not all sit on the same or agree on everything. Okay, Wallace said that on May 5th, so this is 2 days later, there was an elevation of the self-harm risk and treatment plan for Allen, with the number one goal ensuring the safety and number two goal targeting Allen's depression and anxiety. They revised the watch with constant to close due to signs of improvement. So he improved. But remember, he was doing fine, and then somewhere in March, late March, which is when around the time he confessed to his wife and mother, then his mental health took a turn. Then Wallace spoke of her notes of May 9th meeting with Alan, during which she testified he said, "I just want to sign my confession." Wallace said she told Alan he needed to discuss that with his attorneys. Yeah, it's always been rumored that, he wanted to just get it over with, not have a trial, and every time his attorneys would come, probably talk him out of it. And I think even his family, again, that's opinion, but that's been rumored. Alan talked about his self-harm in his last meal. Wallace said, then talked about wanting to get a job inside the Department of Corrections before later saying, "I'd be better off dead." Her cognitive assessment was mild impaired judgment. From her May 10th notes, Wallace said Alan called his wife. Walla left the room. But when she returned, Alan said he wanted to call his wife again so she could hear. During that call, Alan asked if family loved him and would always love him, and said he might have to live the rest of his life in prison. He also mentioned the electric chair. He stated he killed Abby and Libby. Walla testified. Alan's wife said for him to stop saying that. So it sounds like he took a call to his wife. She left the room to be respectful, but she came back in, and then he wanted to call his wife again so Walla could hear, and then told her this stuff that, that he loved his family, but he's going to have to spend the rest of his life in prison, mentioned the electric chair, and confessed. So I'm assuming, and then Alan's wife, Kathy, said stop saying that. So I'm assuming that is recorded, unless that's on a private call in her office or wherever. Yeah, Brad Weber, I guess he has a van. Yeah, the van is Brad Weber. We always kind of talked about the whole interruption thing likely being from Weber. And I'll show you guys, for those that, because like I said, I love visuals, I'll show you guys where the crime scene's at and where you can actually see the access road. And that would definitely, obviously, spook somebody. Wallace said of Alan, he said, "I didn't do everything I said I did, but I did kill Abby and Libby." So backtracking a little bit, maybe he doesn't want that stigma of being a predator, with the sexual stuff, maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating there, of course. Discussing notes for May 11th, Wallace said Alan mentioned he wanted closure by apologizing to the victim's family and wanted to see his wife. He said he needed closure for himself, Wallace testified. So again, where's in all of this, where's these false, how is this false confessions? I don't hear Walla, grilling him. I don't hear, obviously that's not even Walla's job, Where's these Odinist guards that are beating him half to death, making him confess? There's none of this. He's, again, this is no surprise by the defense. They write checks and they bounce. We've seen it so many time and time again. They get the public riled up, and then the truth comes out. Discussing notes from August 3rd. Wallace said, when she asked Alan how he was doing, he said he wanted to go to heaven. Alan said he wanted to see his wife and talk to his family. He talked about being afraid of dying and not, and the note of dying and not, it must have added an E, and not feeling well. He said he was concerned about his heart because he did suffer a heart attack when he was 37. Wallace said during that meeting, Alan said he didn't know what's rational anymore and didn't know if he was going to heaven. Yeah, you ain't going to heaven, buddy. Then I snagged this from the other blog, so let me just kind of proofread this, because there's some stuff that was missed in one. So this is back to the earlier April, because there's some stuff that was missed from the one blog. So this is in the original one, April 5th, when he first told that he killed Abby and Libby and became tearful. He made sure they were dead because he did not want them to suffer. Well, I told the jury that Alan told her his intentions were SA in nature. We talked about the 18 to 19, but thought they were as young as 11. He'd been selfish all of his life. Wallace said Alan claimed he, trigger warning for anybody that's experienced any kind of stuff, assault, sexual stuff like this, because this is why he Wallace said he claimed he molested his sister and experimented sexually with male and female children his age when he was a kid. Wallace said Alan told her this where he thought this is when the problem started. Wallace told the juries that he'd been alcoholic twice since 2011. Alan expressed appreciation for being clothed and fed at Westville. He asked for Bibles and slept on one. I'm just seeing what else. Wallace said his normal eye contact was sometimes intense, intermittent gazing, which we talked about. Just seeing. Oh, okay. So this one says something different. Wallace told the jury that Alan said, "I am insane," when asked why he consumed his own doo-doo. So, okay. So that the other one said the opposite. So that's where. So we need to change that because it said I am sane. So that's where. The acoustics in the courtroom are terrible, and so probably one journalist heard "I am sane," and the other one heard "I am insane." That's why I like to listen to a bunch of podcasts and YouTubers afterwards, because, there's always mistakes. So I'm just proofreading. Oh, yeah, and this is something that the wasn't mentioned in the other one. So going back to the more descriptive of what happened that day, Mueller told the jury that there were no indications of hallucinations, that Allen had a disordered speech. Mueller said May 3rd, Allen wanted to call his wife, but the call did not go through. Allen told her he wanted to see his parents on the morning of. He went to go see his parents on the morning of the murders. He drank 3 beers and went to the bridge. He told Walla he saw the girls. He wanted to take them sexually. Allen said he cut their throats, saw a man and got scared, and covered their bodies with branches. At some point, he said a bullet fell out. He then said he went to his car and continued to live his life. During May 9th, he wanted to sign a confession and then take his own life, planning his last meal. Okay, then about the call with him and his wife together. Okay. Well, I told the jury, so obviously they had May 10th, they had she had a visit with him. Then he called his wife, so she left the room. But then Allen said he wanted to, and when she got back, he said Allen told her, call her back. He wanted her to call her back to say he did it. Wallow told the jury Allen called back and asked if his wife and family loved him, and then said, I killed Abby and Libby, he said on the phone, according to Walla. Keep in mind, he's already told them this multiple times, months, or in March. Walla told the jury that his wife, Kathy, told him, stop saying that, and the phone shut off. Walla said Allen told her after the call Kathy did not believe him. Walla said Walla said he was affectionate to Kathy on the phone. On May 11th, the next day, he told Walla that he wanted closure by apologizing to the families and that he wanted to go to heaven and wanted to die and say bye to family. She told the jury he indicated he felt his family did not want him to contact them. Interesting. All right, we're going to read chat here in just a minute. Oh, let's see. There is more let's see. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is some interesting stuff. All right. Sorry, there's something going out. I saw a van in the woods. Yeah, I'll show you guys. Let's pause it there real quick. Gosh darn it. Drop my pen. We got much more to go over from today, but I just want to show you guys what, for those that may not be as familiar with the area. Okay. Do I need to pull up the other one? Oh, right there. I think it's this one. Let me back it up just a little bit more. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yep, that's a good one right there. Yep, that's perfect. That is perfect. Okay. So let me show you guys
It has
for
been
anybody.
rumored that Libby had her throat severely cut, but according to certain sources who have seen a portion.
So now, but I thought he was. So remember, the defense's argument is Odinist guards, beat him half to death. Now I don't know if they said that verbatim, but it was the Odinist guards that caused him to false confess. Now, where he's just faking his behaviors, or maybe I think maybe you're saying he's just attempting to fake his behaviors, which yes, I agree with that. He's not crazy. He's not insane. Even though, one thing we learned about yesterday is, and I hate to mention the doo-doo, is apparently when he went to eat his doo-doo, there was a guard watching him, one of the companions, and he was acting crazy. He ate the doo-doo and then said, "I'm never doing that again." And then the guy said he never ate doo-doo again. So that just goes to show you, he was trying to put on a scene, and he wanted to take it to the extreme. He did it, and then literally scene said, "No, I'm never doing that again." And that was reported by one of the people yesterday. You can go back and look at it. So that just goes to show you that he was trying to, act crazy, and take it to the extreme, and then that's what you deserve. So for anybody that's not as familiar with the case, this is where the crime scene would have been at. This is the bridge. The girls would have been hauled down here by this monster. He would have took them down this hill here. There's actually two of them. Actually, the bridge actually kind of goes back here. So there's one hill, then there's the access road. This is Brad Weber's. This is a private property. It's really a private road. They call it an access road, the private drive. But it goes to Brad Weber's home. There's another hill. Then they cross the creek, and the crime scene is in this area here. So as you can see, it's pretty, concealed, except, obviously from here, you could see that road, somebody driving by, and we'll kind of take a look at it here. We'll go full screen real quick so you guys can get a good look at that. Just to see that. Okay, so I just wanted to show that. And let's get back into it here. Let's see. 204, 204. 204.15. Okay, so we got much more to go over here. All right. We got Margaret Ann Ray. Thank you so much, Annie Ray. thank you so much for the $2.99 super chat. God bless you. Appreciate the support. If by chance if you'd like, send a Venmo or PayPal. If you do, if you could let my mods know so I could thank you, because sometimes I just don't get them. But depending on the testimony and stuff, I will usually kind of put like a visual together. I wanted to do that for Alan's timeline that he told yesterday, but because there was just so much crazy stuff coming out that I just didn't get a chance to. But we're definitely going to put that together and just show you how there's the inconsistencies of it and issues. All right, so let's crack on. There's more to go. Where's my coffee at? The prosecution asked about Alan's physical appearance in November 2022. So obviously this is right after they arrested him. Walnut tells the jury he was about 180 pounds. He had begun refusing meals and exercising. She said so he's refusing meals and over exercising. Excuse me. That's why I had to read that again. So seems like he's maybe just trying to get on a diet, or I don't know, or get fit. I mean, so the exercising seemed positive at first. Walla tells the jury that if you miss 3 meals, they don't report. If you miss 4, they have to report. She said Alan was mindful not to miss the 4th meal, so it sounds like he was kind of starving himself and over exercising shortly after his arrest. Walla references another report November 10th, 2022. She said Alan said he felt he was a burden. Didn't understand who he should be speaking with about his case because he had not been assigned a public defender. Because I can't remember when Rosie and them came along. The next report shown was April 7th. Walla told Alan that he had confessed and told him it was not in his best interest. Okay, so the next report shown from April 7th, Walla told Alan that he had confessed, because there was confessions to his mother and wife, and told him it was not in his best interest, that it could get to the media, and it did. Walla told the jury that she felt like he was being more blatant with his confusion. She said she felt he was purposeful being that way, faking it. So she's clearly saying that, yeah, in her opinion, he's faking it. Walla told the jury that Alan said that he didn't sign anything, right? The next report is on April 10th. Walla tells the jury that she noticed faking symptoms. She said Alan was naked during the... Oh, God. Alan was naked during this meeting, that there were papers on the floor, and was doing unknown things to his member downstairs and talking about his wife. Walla tells the jury that the papers on the floor were the discovery paperwork for the case. Yeah, I heard he had a breakdown. So this is true. This was rumored. That he got discovery. Remember, this is some of the first discovery he's gotten. For those people that want to say, "Oh, well, he's confessed," but he had discovery for it, and he already knew the details. No, this is his first time getting discovery, and he's probably seeing stuff that is damning to his case, and so that's what he's doing with the paperwork. Well, I told the jury it appeared he'd received the discovery around the time he started confessing. Yeah, because he probably saw, oh shit, they've got stuff on me. And that was rumored a long time ago. That was probably the likely scenario. Because it was when he first got some of the first discovery, and all this confessing happened before and around this time. She said the prison warden did not want other incarcerated individuals to see the discovery papers, and that is why the guards started watching him instead of other inmates. Yeah, getting caught can be stressful. Yeah. Next report is from April 12th, 2023. Wallace said she noticed Alan was self-pleasuring himself, clapping, banging his head, and naked. She said he refused to wear his kimono. Or kimono. I don't know. Is it kimono or kimono? She said she felt like this behavior was done in order to get something. Another report was shown to the jury April 13th. Wall told the jury that Alan's behavior was escalating, that he was laying in and consuming his doo-doo. She said that a psychiatrist offered medication and Alan refused. She said that the psychiatrist said Alan didn't qualify for an emergency ejection. It was at this time Walla told the jury that Alan's watch changed from close to constant. So now his demeanor is causing them concern, and so now they've got to keep a constant eye on him. She said she thought he was having an emotional breakdown related to the discovery paperwork. She said she still felt like he was faking it. Walla told the jury it was getting to the point where it doesn't matter whether he was faking it or not faking it because he was deteriorating. So by just purposely trying to go crazy, he is now causing his health to deteriorate because he's acting out and, realizes, he's caught. Another report shown to the jury April 17th. Wall told the jury that Alan's window was greasy and dirty and that he was standing in his cell with his eyes closed praying. She said he agreed to come out of his cell. Walla told the jury it seemed like he switched from bizarre to coherent. Remember, that's a common theme that, he's crazy, then boom, he's normal. He's normal, and then he goes crazy. She said he kept his eyes closed for the session. He said he was having nightmares. Yeah. I mean, do you think she's making all this stuff up, Joseph? I mean, do you think she would perjure herself? Remember, some of this stuff is sounds like it's been recorded to some degree. The phone call, I'm assuming the phone calls would have been recorded, and I do understand that. But again, why? Yeah. Anyway, we'll hear what the defense gets to bring up, because it'll be the defense get to depose her, but Cross here in a minute. While it told the jury, Alan said, "I just want to tell the truth. I am afraid I lied so much." She said Alan told her he did vulgar and disgusting things. While it said Alan told her the last thing he remembered was falling asleep and activating nuclear war. Clearly, he just wants it to be over. Wallace said Alan received involuntary medication on April 14th and said that improvement was seen in Allen. Another report shown from April 21st, Wallace said she felt Allen's odd behavior not to be genuine. And that's not just from her. That is from many people that were there. They all said that, even though the rest of them weren't psychologists, obviously they're just, government officials, obviously guards, whatever, he'd be faking it. Just like the time that he ate that doo-doo and then was acting crazy, ate some doo-doo, and then the person that was watching him then said, like, after he did that, his demeanor just switched. It was like, oh, I'm not doing that again. And come on. He wanted to take it to the extreme. He did it, and then boom. It was like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Hi, Chris. Are these confessions only things the unaliver would know, or did the public already know these details? God, no, we didn't know. This case has been so tight-lipped. Now, there's been rumors. No, we didn't get... God, when did we get the PCA affidavit? God, I mean... Does anybody know in chat when we got the PCA affidavit finally for the first time in public? I'm sure I could look it up. I'm sure somebody could tell me in chat, though. No, this case was so tight-lipped. Sticks. We knew nothing about Sticks. No, I think your timing is off. No, at least according to that guy, he said he'd never do that again. He may have still done stuff with that, but he didn't eat it anymore, according to that guy. At least on his watch. Yeah, does anybody know? Yeah, I mean, we didn't know anything for the longest time. Yeah, anyway, I could look it up. That is a good question, though. It's a great question. Another report was shown on April 21st, Allen's odd behavior not to be genuine. A report on April 25th said Allen denied experiencing anything like this in the past and thought this could be due to him not taking his medication, including Prozac. Waller told the jury that she advocated for Allen to visit his wife, which is not typical for patients in the Westfield Correctional Unit. She said Allen continued to ask to be transferred. Of course, he wanted to be transferred to, to a jailhouse so he could visit, obviously, his family, like normal convicted or people that were, obviously awaiting trial to be held in county or something like that. Next report shown on April 28th, Wallace said she observed Allen on his bed naked and the cell smelled and he asked for a shower. She told the jury that his awareness on his smell it's just worded weird. Awareness of his smell was a good sign. She said Allen told her he had not been showering because he was selfish. So he's punishing himself. She said he went on flushing the Bible down the toilet. She said, I didn't see him as psychotic. It was possible he was severely depressed. Then we get to the defense. So it looks like that's it for the prosecution. Now, let's see what the defense has. 11:53. Defense begins to cross-examine Walla. Defense attorney Brad Rosie asked Walla about her career history, and Walla said that she no longer works for the Department of Corrections. She is now working at a different facility, though, through a contractor. Yeah, I mean, if you want to preach his innocence, everybody has a right to their stuff. Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for the $2. But again, when you start revealing details that only a killer would know, and again, I cannot explain this enough that this murder happen on such a linear time frame and linear path that there's just only so many variables that could take place. And he clearly told the truth in the beginning on his timeline, and he tried to backtrack, but yet you have people there that were actually have data, and his timeline, you can't put him there at the timeline he is now trying to say, or his defense. And we can show that. And I've got to add in his new stuff that we didn't know before, and I'll show there's just all sorts of red flags. Rosie tells the jury that Walla was following the Delphi murders case far before treating Mr. Allen. Oh my gosh. That she followed the case on Facebook through podcasts. Walla agrees. I mean, you can't blame her, if she was following them before she treated Allen, right? And I wonder if she was following it before Allen was arrested, because it sounds like she was treating him shortly after he was arrested. So I'm assuming she was following this case before they had a suspect. So I don't know where there'd be biased against Allen, really. But again, I don't see, that's supposed to be her fault that she follows true crime. I'm sure if she was responsible, she stopped doing that. Rosie tells the jury, Rosie tells the jury that Walla used the Department of Corrections database to find information about the case, and that the Department of Corrections is investigating her for that. So, yeah, that's not good. He says this is why she is not at the Department of Corrections right now. He tells the jury Walla was contributing and recommending on social media where to get information earlier than 2024. Rosie tells the jury that Walla was commuting 2 hours every day to Westville for work and listening to Delphi podcast on the way there. At some point, Rosie said she shut all her social media accounts down. Walla tells the jury she told Department of Correction of her interest in the case whenever they found Allen was coming to Westville. Rosie says she did not. He tells the jury that Walla was sharing her thoughts with Allen while he was in custody. And I would agree that is not good. Rosie asks Walla about clinical testing experienced by Allen. Says he was diagnosed with depression disorder when he got to Westville. Rosie asks Walla if she thought Allen suffered from dependent personality disorder. Walla says it's possible. She says Allen was fragile when he came to Westville. Rosie asks Walla about the conditions of Allen's cell. She says they wouldn't let him out of the cell. Rosie asks if Allen was a code D of mental health. She confirms. I don't know what a code D is. If anybody knows in the chat, maybe that's something to do with somebody that's attempting personal harm or self-harm, I'm sorry. So that is what I'm caught up to. Let's see what we got. Again, I would say, yeah, her actions are probably not great, but again, if he's confessing to stuff that he shouldn't know, I don't know how to explain that. Good to see you, Tom. Thank you so much, buddy. So let's see here. I need to take a sip. Let me see where we left off. Oh boy, here we go. Uh-oh. Alan. I'm going to be honest. I hope they introduce the Odinist. I hope the jury gets to hear the Odinist thing, because these are smart jurors. And I'm not saying that the people that believe in the Odinist thing are dumb, but in my opinion, if they hear this and weigh it against everything else, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to put the pieces together responsibly. Okay. I want to get in order here. That's 234. I just want to see if they finish with Walla. So that's... Okay, so that's there. Okay. Alright, let me finish. Okay, so there's Walla, and then it looks like they're trying to introduce the Odinist thing. So this is interesting. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wasn't Walla pro-defense anyway? Yeah, she was. Yeah. So all these people, oh God, Walla. That's right. I wanted to say something, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what I thought. She was following pro-defense podcasts, so goodness heavens me. So, right. So it sounds like she still did her job, even though she was clearly following these Bob Modas, whatever. Okay, Alan's defense attorney, Brad Rosie, continued his cross-examination about the discovery in this case. Later asked her to elaborate on Alan's condition when he was booked into Westville on November 18th. Wallace said he had symptoms and confirmed that Alan was considered a safekeeper, which is an inmate transferred from jail to prison without a present conviction. According to Walla, Allen didn't have orientation or training when he arrived at Westville. Walla described his counseling cubicle as 3x3, called it a cage. It's all we have, Walla said. Once he's in the cage, they would take the shackles off. Walla confirmed Allen's transport in the cubicle as a dog cage. So clear, you could see she felt bad for him. As even saying, yeah, he was in a dog cage. But again, she is a big witness for the prosecution, as he confessed to her. In December 2022, Walla said Allen pushed for his innocence. In a later report, Allen told Walla he could not get a toothbrush from commissary and could not visit his wife. He said he felt that he was being treated worse than others convicted of crimes. He's also expressed concerns about roaches in the facility. Here, Rosie asked Walla to confirm that Westville was in the process of building a new facility and tearing down the original. Walla said in a report on April 4th, Allen was experiencing self-harm. April 13th, she ruled that Allen had a grave disability, which prompted discussion to involuntarily inject Allen. Walla did not specify what he would be injected with, but later reported that his cognitive state was getting worse. I I think we read part of this. Okay, so the jury had some questions for her. Walla told the jury she questioned the authenticity of Alan's behavior in prison, then admits that she now questioned if Alan was faking it. Wall then told the jury she was interested in the case prior to treating Alan. She said she spoke with 2 supervisors before taking Alan in as a patient. The supervisors did not have an issue with Walla's interest in the case. She confirmed and added that Alan came into the prison on Prozac. His dosage was later adjusted. So, unless she's going to perjure herself on the stand, she told them that she had been looking at the case, according to her superiors, and they didn't have an issue with that. Unless she perjured herself and lying. When asked about her interest in the case, she said, I mean, there's always been that interest. She added that she looked things up on the database for personal reasons. Now, that probably is what probably got in her trouble, is looking up using the database. Walla then admits visiting the High Bridge in Delphi, the infamous bridge on the Monad Trail where Libby and Abby were last seen before their murder. The jury asked questions about Alan's mental illness, inquiring if brief psychotic disorders can reappear over time and if he knew the consequences of not eating 4 meals. Walla said psychotic symptoms of disorders can reappear after going away, and Alan did know the consequences, saying they discussed it at one point. So, okay, all right, I got to take a sip of this for a minute. We still have about 1,000 people in here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, guys. What do you guys think so far? Let me see. Yeah, Bob Williams, can I get a definition of bash? Yeah, it sounds like he was like running into like the cage or wall. Clearly, it wasn't hard enough to like knock him out or break bones. So think of it as more as probably like banging. I'm sure it wasn't healthy to whatever he's banging, if it's face or shoulders or whatever's taking the brunt of the force. But you know. Sounds more of like a tick, or I don't know. I'm not an expert, but that's, that's what I've heard explained from the guy from yesterday, is that he was doing that same thing at one point. I mean, it's almost like restless legs. You would think, kind of like being stuck in this cell, and you're just like, God, I want out. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of speculate, but. Oh, right. Did he know school was out that day? That's a great question. Oh, thank you so much, Lady Lexi. God bless you. It's a lot, I know. But again, he's mentioning stuff, and again, we're only just getting into these confessions. There's more to come. There's the recordings. We're just hearing firsthand testimony. The juror's going to hear in his own words saying it. I mean, I don't know how many times he needs to confess in all these different situations. Remember, we're, jury or the defense made it out that these Odinist guards, were beating him half to death and, forcing him to confess, which honestly, it sounded like his best friends were the people watching him that he was confessing to. So, like, make it make sense. There's another one. Maybe there's another one in Indiana. There's another one in Evansdale, Iowa, where two girls were taken off their bikes. It's actually they often thought these two cases could have been connected. I don't know if you're referring to that one, but that's a case where the girls were taken from where they were at a park, and then they were killed and sadly taken miles away to another much bigger wooded area and dumped. Whereas the defense wants to tell you that, they were abducted, yet Libby's phone, they can run what's called Cellubrite, and they could tell, and we listened to this in the Alex Murdoch case, we could tell every time when you even if you do this, where it's not turning your phone off, you just touch it, you try to sign in or whatever, you try to punch in your code, it records it, and they can look at everything. So for their defense to tell you, as much as ridiculous it is for them to be abducted and then brought right back to where they've been looking for the girls hours, 10 hours later or whatever, and then they're going to go and turn on the phone at 4:33, leave it under the body, and then, and then kill them while it's pitch black dark, lay sticks on them, do a ritual, a white supremacist group, nonetheless, that are going to kill white, All right. At 2:34, defense attorneys for Richard Allen have made a new request to tell the jury in the Delphi murders trial about evidence of Odinism. Oh, God. The request was part of a new request filed Wednesday morning asking Judge Francis Gould to admit evidence about connection between Odinism and the murders of Abby and Liberty. Yet, BH, their main guy, is literally clocked in at work. He has an alibi. You know who doesn't have an alibi? Richard Allen. Elvis Fields, EF, their next main guy, who's got the mentality of a child or a teenager, was able to get away with this for 5.5 years. Up to 5 people possibly involved, yet none of them snitched on each other. None of them thought, shit, they're getting close. I'm going to rat this guy out before the other 4 rat me out, or, make it make sense. In the second request filed by Allen's attorneys, since testimony began in his trial, Allen's defense team claims that this by the prosecution witness in the first 10 days of the trial have opened the door to admission of Odinism, North paganism, ritual killing. I thought we got rid of that, after the 80s. I thought we learned our lesson, but I guess we haven't. The Satanic Panic, West Memphis 3, even, what's the other guy? Sam, son of Sam, same thing, and all of it was BS. They just didn't know. But now they're going to try it again. The filing cites testimony from Jerry Holman from the ISP. Lieutenant Holman testified that sticks placed on the girl were intended to conceal the bodies, right? Under questioning from Prosecutor Holman, testified the sticks may have been placed as part of undoing a crime scene behavior considered an attempt to symbolically reverse a homicide or restore honor to the victims. So they're going to try to use what Holman said as a way to get that in. I don't think that's going to work. I get it. If they bring up, if the prosecution asks witness something and it relates to Odinism in some way, that does open up the door. That's fair game. Just like the sketches, I think, I don't know, because they had mentioned something about the sketches. Allen's defense team claimed in the court filing that by Holman's testimony means the defense should now be allowed to submit its theory to jurors that sticks were placed as a part of. In my opinion, let him hear it. Let him hear it. Let them hear it. Judge Gohl has previously rejected defense request to present this ritualistic sacrifice theory to the jury. In the same filing, Allen's attorney asked to be allowed to present evidence of third-party suspects. The defense filing cites testimony for a forensic pathologist who told jurors that many as 4 knives may have been used to Judge Gohl did not indicate when she might rule on the request, and I wonder what that's going to be. I wonder. So again, if you tuned in and missed earlier, apparently Nancy Grace is there. So she's hearing all this. Let's see what's going on in Reddit here, and we'll read the chat. What do we got? We started at 12:30. Oh yeah, he also confessed to potentially his daughter, doing terrible stuff to his daughter. If you've seen pictures of his daughter, she eerily looks like Libby. Brad Weber, who lives off private lane southeast of where Abby and Libby were found, testifies he drove the Ford EcoVan home after getting off his shift at 2:02 at SIA, 25 minutes away. So he gets off at 2. I know that's 2:27. I can do math, but I'm thinking the phone stops at 2:32. I mean, holy shit. That is just another nail in the coffin right there. That is another nail in his coffin. And we'll show you why. 2:27, maybe 2:28. Probably, you could give a 5-minute window. So there's more testimony. I'm so glad they got his testimony. I'm assuming he testified, right? Yeah, he testified. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad they got him testifying. That's huge. Let me play you guys why that is a issue.
Teenage girls, Abby Williams and Liberty German, had made last-minute
I'll get to chat
to
here
go
in just
to
a
the
second.
Monon
Love
High
to see your
Bridge,
thoughts on this.
which was supposed to.
And we'll highlight some stuff here. Oh, I'm so glad they got him to testify. So he had an eco van. He testified a van. So nobody knew about a van. I didn't know he had a van. Anybody know he had a van? Anybody? Again, another detail only the killer would know. I mean, how much is it going to take? All right. You get it right. Right. Oh. Boom. Right there. let me take his statement. Okay, and we got his statement. Okay, so he abducts the girls at 2:13. They go down, right? Now, again, like I just said earlier, they got his phone. They have his phone, or Libby's phone, not his phone. They have Libby's phone. They are able to run a bunch of different programs. They're able to run a bunch of different programs, such as Cellubrite, which is the same one they ran in Alex Murdaugh case. They were able to tell that Alex Murdaugh was walking around with his wife's phone because all of a sudden they're both moving at the same time after she had been killed, and then it gets thrown. They could even tell that it was thrown. So this is huge because look at the time the phone stops moving. 2:32. Something happens just before that, at around 2:30, and guess what? He gets home, say 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. Actually, if you say 30 minutes, it's 2:32. I'll just say 30 minutes, 2:32. They get attacked at 2:30, approximately. And look what time he's getting home. And that's the thing that I just showed you, that driveway right here. That gives me goosebumps. That makes me sick to my stomach at the same time, but that gives me goosebumps because, again, he testifies to a van, an eco van. Those are pretty big vans, aren't they? Let's see, maybe it'd be like a 2015, 2016. So, yeah. So, just typical van, something like that. Again, that's huge. Yeah. Because I showed you guys earlier, if you missed it, I could show it quickly again real quick. This is huge. And we haven't even heard his testimony. So we could get to his testimony as well. But the timing of that. Look at the timing of that. It all lines up. Everything that we've been getting, it all lines up. And I just don't know how much more you can add on. There's no way this guy should be able to know this stuff unless you are the killer. Again, so here is for people. I'm just going to pull up full screen real quick so I can turn on my heat for a second. But this is the crime scene here. That is the road. So you could see where the killer would be able to see that road. And as a matter of fact, I even have a video where they're down there on the ground and looking at the road. And when you're down there, it'd probably be a little bit harder, because you're probably more paying attention because you're up on this, you're close to the steep hill. So, and I'm sure he doesn't want to flip his van. So I'm pretty sure Brad Weber, when he drives this, I'm sure he's not really sightseeing. I'm sure he's going slow, but I doubt he's going very fast to where he's going to, be out there sightseeing. So, but of course that would scare the shit. Man, I feel bad for Brad because when you put that all together, not that it's his fault, but, him coming there, I guess at the very least it saves them from experiencing being sexually assaulted. At the very least, if that was going to be that and then they get killed right after, at least they didn't have to go through that. I guess if you want to look at it glass half full, but man, it's just, again, those are details, minute details that you can't just explain away. So I'm going to put this full screen for a minute so you can look at this for a second. I know I played this, but for those that might have missed it, the killer was across the creek. He was about to attempt to sexually do something to these girls, and this guy, Brad Weber, was coming home at around probably 2:30, and Libby's phone stopped moving at 2:32. Poor guy. Okay. So, just had to turn on the heat a little bit. It's a little chilly here, but yeah, there's where the private road kind of goes under the bridge there, and actually where it ends, right here. Oh! Can I pause it right there? Right there is where the bridge ends. Right there, I think. Right? Let's see. Yeah. So the driveway cuts over, and you can actually you can't see it right there. Let me move it here. Let me move it over. And then we're going to get into Brad Weber's testimony, because that seems like he's the next to testify. That's an interesting jump over. But yeah, right there you can kind of see the road. So the road would have gone under. So these girls would have been hauled down. Of course, there's one hill that goes to the road. And we heard in testimony that one of the searchers saw what had seemed like on the second hill that it appeared that somebody had slid down on their butt. And then I think it was one of the officers that had noticed that on this hill, you can't really tell it from this view, but there's a steep hill that goes down here, that there was what appeared to be somebody sliding down. So it appears that they may have slid down, and then he hasn't mentioned anything about them making a run for it, although we still are yet to hear all of the confessions. So that would be interesting to know, or maybe that was the plan all along. But of course, he told them in the interview that, he didn't go there very often, yet he has a photo album that they had recovered from from what I understand, the guest bedroom, which showed, it's just a photo album pretty much dedicated to the Delphi Monon area. So it was clear he is very familiar with this area. They speculated that the killer had likely known, and we kind of speculated. Sure, it wasn't the first, of course, but that this killer knew this area and knew that this was a dead end when these poor girls are recording their last, one of their last final moments, as this guy's hiking this, basically cruising across this bridge, meaning he's probably done it several times, probably knows each little gap, and why he's able to go so fast, and knew that this was a dead end, even though it's technically not a dead end because there's private property and there's a residential area. It's just too bad these girls just didn't just haul butt to Brad Weber's home, who had arrived 20 minutes later approximately, which is even really just terrible to think about, that if they would have ran, Weber would have been coming home, and of course hindsight's 2020. Man, that sucks. All right, continuing on. So I guess we've got Brad Weber. Let's look at this one. All right, so we got that one. We got this one. Let's see if they got Brad Weber here.
Wake up ready to tackle
hello.
your next adventure with the
Hello.
Ghost Bed
No, I don't want to go
RV.
on an adventure. No, thank you. Why, that cranked up my thing there. Okay. Let's see. No, stop it. They might not have. They might not have Brad Weber up yet. It seems like we get to this point where we get kind of tidbits from the last part of the day, but the actual blogs, the ones that we've been kind of following, kind of stop around 3/4 into the day, because that's, you know, I think they update it on lunch and then maybe the third break, and then after that we don't get anything until court has adjourned. Here's somebody showing a good shot of the private driveway, which I've shown. Let's see this one. Oh, yeah, from the ground. Yeah, so this is from the crime scene. Okay, yeah. So just to show you guys from, I'm assuming this is interesting. Let's see. Yeah, this is the crime scene side. So this is Logan's property. And yeah, that's the drive. Yeah, so he's such much lower right there. See if he points over to it again. So you would definitely hear a van, obviously. Come on, look over. I have a better video from what's his face. Yeah. I got a better one where the guy's standing at the crime scene and looking at it, and it's weird because it looks like it's so close. It's eerie, and so now that theory that it was Brad Weber that likely had scared the killer has now come true. Let's take the Twitter here, and I'll get to chat, and then we'll kind of finish up here. Okay, Max Lewis. What's he say? There's some significance to this particular letter that I didn't realize at first. It's dated March 5th. However, former Westville Ethan testified that Allen slipped this note under his door on April 5th. Yeah, I saw that. I think that's why Allen got upset, because like the note didn't get delivered when he wanted to. Yeah, so, okay. That's 20 hours ago. 3 hours ago. Would have to be Brad Weber testifying, right? Am I wrong? Like, clearly. Who did this come from? Dave? Dave Bangard. Dave Bangard. Let's look him up. There he is. Let's see what he has to say real quick here, and I'll get the chat. For good measure, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin hands Weber a subpoena. Sounds like we'll hear from him again. So it sounds like the defense is going to call Brad Weber. Expected Thursday. Prosecutor told judge to expect 2 hours of audio. Oh, boy. So the audio of the confessions, now the jury's going to hear, it ain't going to be somebody's words. There's going to be Alan's own words confessing, possibly even revealing more details, who knows, about what happened. And don't forget to order yourself some good Bruno's famous pizza since 1955. Oh, let's see. He's got 2 posts here. Okay. Let's see. Talked about Walla. 40 minutes ago. A few other tidbits. Steve Mullen testifies the only 2016 black Ford Focus in Carroll County in February 2007 belonged to... I'm so glad they researched this. I was going to say, you guys are idiots if you don't research this. I wanted to research this. So, Steve Mullen testified today that the only 2016 black Ford Focus SE in Carroll County belonged to one Richard Allen. I know those defense people are going to say, oh, I'm sure there's some people out of town driving their 2016 black Ford Focus right at 127. It is good pizza, isn't it? Blue Line? Yeah, sounds like you're local. LS1, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Bless you. This helps this channel out. I cannot say how much I appreciate the support. I am literally, since day one, been going at it. Second I'm done doing my live shows, I listen to, because pretty much when I'm done, court is out, and then we have like people like Tom Webster, who I would have people go to after I'm done, because I love he's funny as well. I wish I had his humor. Yep, he's there taking notes. I'm assuming he went today. I mean, it's possible he could have missed out on a seat. I'm not sure, but that's who I would suggest watching after me. Don Spain, Chris, do you think the Chris, Steve, Don molestation RA confessed to are real people? That's right. He mentioned some names I might have missed. Yeah, we missed that. That's a great question, Don. I don't know, to be honest with you. It's a great question. I wonder if they'll find out if they did any research, after hearing this, to kind of back up or, confirm or deny that his claim, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm so glad Steve Mullen did that, because that Because I knew the defense people are going to say, oh, it could be somebody else's black 2000 Ford Focus or whatever. Carroll County. Because that's a newer car. If you think about it, you know, that's, even though the murders happened in 2017, 2016, that's a pretty newer car. Not to say, you know, people don't get new cars all the time, but, you know, to have almost up-to-date latest year, you know, I mean, that's Carroll County population during 15. Da, 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 da. Wait, let me. Oop. So, Carroll County. So, obviously, Delphi is a population of 3,000 or less. Carroll County in 2017 is approximately 20,000 people in Indiana. And according to Steve Mullen, in 2017, the only 2016 belonged to one Richard Allen. Hard data. Okay, let's see. More lemonade. Okay. Let's see. Does he have any more on that? So, it says 11. Wait. Let's see. We've got. Okay, that's 10. Bread. Okay, there's that. There's that. Okay, I'm just seeing if there's anything that, you know, it's noteworthy. I don't see that. And let me guess, if I look up Richard Allen, oh God, there's that person. Oh God, are you kidding me? Are we going to blame Brad Weber now? Oh God, these people. I'm sorry. I mean, they're just going to throw whoever under the bus. They don't care. You know, these people have families. This is the thing that pisses me off is I understand theorizing, you know, and maybe you're on the fence, but, you know, when you throw people's names out in this day and age, you're going to ruin people's lives. If anyone hasn't seen Don't F with Cats, I'm just going to say don't fuck with cats because I'm a cat lover. But it has nothing to do with cats. Well, it actually does. It's actually very terrible. But it's about a murder and a bunch of armed terror detectives, sleuths, who basically solve it. But in the process, and they had this big group, and it got bigger because this killer, who was from Canada, I believe, I forget the name, someone, Luca Magnatis or something like that. But he showed a couple of videos where he was taking cats' lives, which is just, God, I can't watch it all. I would murder somebody if I caught somebody killing a cat. I'm just going to be honest with you. Harming animals is just, and I have a thing for cats. I love all animals, but cats are just something. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Anyway, so these people ended up catching this guy, but in the middle, they kind of went down a route, unfortunately, and they had found that they thought this killer had stayed at actually the hotel. Is it the Hotel Cecil? Or am I combining two different things? I want to say, anyway, they ended up thinking it was this guy. It was the wrong guy. They had gotten a name. Anyway, and started saying this guy's the guy that's making the videos killing cats. And, of course, it was the wrong guy. And, of course, he got a bunch of hate, death threats. It got so bad he took his life. And that's the shit that's going to happen when you do this kind of shit. And that's what pisses me off when you start dragging third-party names without any substance to them. Now, I'm certainly guilty when before they arrested Alan, and I'm sure I'd name names. We always try to use initials. That's why you use initials. But you can destroy lives. Sorry to get on my high horse, but it just pisses me off. Anyway. Yeah, Luke Magnata or something like that. Yeah. It was pretty amazing. You know, because it did. It you know, there was a bunch of sleuths, and they came together, and they helped catch the guy. It's pretty amazing. It's on Netflix. But it shows you, you know, the double-edged sword on sleuthing, where, you know, you start doing that shit, and it just makes me mad. Yeah, and blaming the victim's family. Oh, God. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I want to see what they say just to see where they're going at, and because then I'd like to, you know, debunk. And once in a while, maybe they have something that's worth arguing about, but it's when it comes to Richard Allen, in my opinion, it's very little, and it's getting desperate, in my opinion. That's my 2 cents on it. I'm just gonna look one more time. So it looks like they had Dr. Wallet today.
Wake up ready to tackle your next adventure.
They finished with Brad Weber. Obviously the testimony from, I can't wait to watch Nancy Grace tonight. I don't know if anybody's watched Nancy Grace, because there's a lot of channels. Of course, they're still in the middle. They kind of play it safe. Not Nancy Grace. As someone who is a former attorney, she, you know, when mentioned about the Odinist stuff, she says, you know, it's a load of crap, and she hopes that the defense can use it because she knows that the jury will see through that and that they'll fall on their face, because you can't put any of those guys there. That's why it was excluded in the beginning. So yeah, thanks, Fire and Eyes. Again, like I said, it sucks because it has a double-edged sword when it comes to this day and age with social media. And there's been some good stuff, you know. Gabby Petito, YouTubers, a van life YouTuber came around, and if it wasn't for them, I'm sure they'd probably eventually find Gabby Petito, but I'm sure it took a much longer time. Because they were out, you know, they went out in the Tetons, and that's a big area out there. So, yeah. Fickle, thank you so much for gifting a Mob Crew membership. God bless you. Appreciate the support. Sandy, I think I missed this one earlier. Oh, thank you. I stopped watching it for a long time. I'm not sure what you meant, but I'm sorry I missed it. Oh, I see. Oh, you're referencing the confessions and about the public. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of this stuff that he's mentioning, you know, the van. Nobody knew about the van. We knew about Weber. I had never heard of van. We thought 330. So the 230 is actually we always kind of thought 3:30 is when he came home, so 2:30 is another one. Like, we didn't know he came home at 2:30. We thought it was later. So just all these little details, and then that lines up right when they're killed, 2:32. And then Alan mentioning the bullets in this, and then remember his interview from yesterday saying, oh, you shouldn't find my bullet at the crime scene or on the bridge, which, again, it's like, why the fuck, why is he saying the bridge? That doesn't make sense. Now we know he probably ejected a round out when he was up on the bridge threatening intimidating the girls. So there's a lot here to, and I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's stuff that we, as always, journalists can only capture so much, right? So fast. So we got another day. Let's see what this says. Oh, let's see. One last bit here. Bam, right there. Weber confirmed the day of the murders. At 2:30 in the afternoon, he drove up on Country Road. That is his driveway. 2:32, the phone stops moving. Confirmed through vehicle registration, there was only one 2016 Black Ford Focus SE in Carroll County of 2,000 people. Delphi, less than 3,000. That belonged to only one person, Richard Allen. And that Black Ford Focus SE, which has unique rims on it, is definitely a unique vehicle. And that looks like a PT Cruiser or a smart car if you're looking at it from a funky angle. So I'm just reading. Anything else? Yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Again, tomorrow they're going to have audio for Richard Allen that the jury's going to listen to. They're going to listen to his voice. Maybe, I know comparing 4 words, that's really hard, but I would love to hear. Eventually we'll be able to hear his voice. And from what I heard, when they heard, especially the interview on October 13th, they said it sounded like Bridge Guy. They said October 26th, not so much, but they said it's probably because of the recording. It was different. Probably, maybe the acoustics of the room always play a part in how audio is. So, before I go, oh, right. Hey, good to see you, Gonzo. Yeah, Red, White, and Bethune, something like that. Yeah. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, Red, White, and Bethune, I think, or something like that. Or Bethane, but something like that. Yeah, crazy name, but yeah, the timing of them going through the Tetons. Oh my gosh, and actually having a camera. A lot of people go to the Tetons, but it's a big area. I haven't been out there since I was a kid, but oof, because it's not far from Yellowstone. I mean, it's still kind of far, but it's not far. It's still all kind of connected, kind of. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to my wonderful mods, Olivia, Mitzi, Sensei, Jennifer, D. Poor Jennifer has been sick. Oh, she sounded terrible when I spoke to her. Jocelyn's been sick. But God bless you guys. Thank you guys so much coming in and modding. I know it's tough when, emotions are high. Who got home at 2:30? Oh, that was Brad Weber. That's huge. As I just showed earlier, that was Brad Weber criminal. If you missed that,
Teenage
that
girls.
that explains
Abby
why
Williams and Liberty
her phone
German
stopped moving at
had made
2:32.
last-minute plans to go to the Monon High
So
Bridge,
that just shows
which
you
was
how
supposed
fast
to be a teenage hangout.
he snuffed their lives out. And hopefully I'll get time, but yeah. Look at what time that phone stops moving. 2:32. Guess who's driving on this road? Brad Weber at 2:30. White van. Guess who mentions a white van? Richard Allen. Who knew that? Nobody. Except Brad Weber. And maybe, some close people in the police. But, yep. So, it's my pleasure. Again, if by chance you had PayPal or Venmo, thank you. And God bless you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with more. And hopefully if I get time, I'm going to try to make that timeline for Richard Allen that he explained, and I'm going to show all the holes. And he, from what I understand, he admits to parking at the, for anybody that's wondering, so, it's been kind of up in the air, especially with the defense, where he exactly parked. But according to what I understand from what they said, the people there watching the interview, he is claiming he parked at the CPS building, which obviously probably doesn't surprise most of you, but that now we can pin down for his second time, he says he parked at that CPS building, and I will show you why that didn't happen between noon and 1:30. So, God bless you guys. We will be back 2 or 2:30 Eastern time. And again, I would suggest going over to Tom Webster. He probably goes live right about now. Check him out if he's live. And God bless all you guys, new subscribers, my members. And I do have a Patreon page if you'd like to support me there. And with that, have the rest of a great day. We'll see you guys Halloween.